Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to the Absolutely Studying podcast. Today, we are talking about creating a self-care routine tailored to you. We started off talking about the benefits of self-care and how it is going to help you in your busy midterm season and throughout your academic journey. But I talk too much. We already know. Long-winded this time, and we're going to actually talk about creating a self-care routine. I mentioned last time, this is not going to be a super deep dive definitive resource. It's going to get you to get started. You should be able to create a beautiful, unique self-care routine for yourself off here. But if you do need more help with creating a morning routine, evening routine, study routine, figuring out how to manage your time to fit these routines into your life, as well as creating your unique and personalized self-care routine, then I do have masterclasses for all of that in the Absolutely Studying Academy, and I will leave a link down there so you can learn a little bit more about that. Now that we are already off in left field, as per usual, let's just get right into creating your self-care routine step by step so that we can actually get that student tank refueled and productive. Okay, step one, I kind of alluded to in the intro, is to assess your schedule. The first thing you need to know when building a self-care routine is what kind of time you actually dedicate to said self-care. Now, you don't have to be able to set aside hours a day. My target in this video is to help you find simple, time-effective self-care activities that you can do that can refuel you, make you feel more like yourself, make you feel good about yourself, give you what you need to really succeed and excel in post-secondary school, and help you to get the output for the goals that you want to achieve. Understanding your current commitments, understanding your schedule is going to be key to not overburdening yourself. So go through when you are setting aside time throughout your day, your week, create your schedule and see where you have little pockets of time that you can squirrel away 5, 10, 15 minutes throughout your day to dedicate to simple acts of self-nurturance. I like using a planner because in my brain, I can do everything all at once. I am the epitome of multitasking, and that's dangerous. So I like to use a planner. I have a weekly layout, and then I like to sit down every morning and write out my to-do list and just take the first 15 minutes of my day to sip my coffee, write my to-do list, and really kind of get a handle on what my day is going to look like and how I'm going to spend it. Spoiler alert, that 15 minutes in itself is considered self-care because I'm taking that time to sit there and reflect on myself, reflect on my priorities, have some quiet time, and just take that time selfishly for me to plan my day. Simple acts like that that might look like productivity can actually be a form of self-care if you frame them right. These blocks of time are going to be key because the more efficiently we can slide in the activities of self-care, it's going to help us to add more throughout our day. A perfect example is I took an 8 a.m. class, physics, biggest mistake of my university career. It was so hard. I didn't live on campus. I lived on the opposite side of town. It took me over an hour to get to campus every morning. So I started my day off extremely early and on an hour-long bus ride. I promised myself I am never taking another 8 a.m. class again. It's not worth it. Well, my ecology class a couple years later just happened to only be available at the 8 a.m. slot. So I had to find a way to make it there every day that was not going to drain me of every ounce of sanity I had left. So I developed an act of self-care, and yours might look different, but for me, every morning that I made it there on time For sometimes I would do it as the semester went on. I would do it at the end of the week, so Fridays. When we first started out in September, it had to be every day. I could make it to campus 30 minutes early. I would reward myself with an iced caramel macchiato, a bacon and Gouda egg bites, egg and cheese bites, or an oatmeal with the fruit and nuts from Starbucks, the Starbucks we had on campus. That was an expensive self-care routine, I am going to admit, but it helped me out in a multitude of ways. It incentivized me to wake up and get ready and get on that bus and go to class and get there early. It incentivized me to have a hearty meal that gave my brain everything it needed to really be awake and alert in that class. And it gave me some nutrients back because those were things I love. I love those egg bites. I love iced caramel macchiatos. I love them. And I love oatmeal. It is a comfort food. My grandma used to make me oatmeal all the time growing up. So that act really nurtured me. Again, at the beginning of the semester, it was expensive, and I did end up cutting back a little bit as the semester progressed and as it got easier to be at school at 8 a.m. But that was one super simple way that didn't really take any extra time out of my schedule. It actually added time to my schedule because then I woke up early, I was on time, I ate during class, so it didn't take extra time to have that breakfast. And it gave me back so much more. The next thing you really need to step back and identify are your self-care goals. So what is it that you are trying to achieve with your self-care? In my example, I was trying to achieve getting to class on time. If I get to my first class on time, I'm going to be at the rest of my classes on time. So what is the goal of that act of self-care? Is it to clarify the day, like my 15-minute planning sessions in the morning? Is it to get to a class on time and focus and be productive and get the best marks you have in that class by attending them and being present, like with my Starbucks routine? Or is it to feel great about yourself and have a good night's sleep, like it could be if you were having a reading routine of, a few pages before bedtime or a skincare routine before bed? Each of your self-care routines or each of your self-care activities should have a clear goal. And that might not be the same for everything. Sometimes we're stressed out and we have a really long week and all we want to do is disconnect. And maybe binge watching a few episodes on Netflix is going to do that for you. Identify the goals of each of your self-care acts and then use those self-care acts as intended. So if you are wanting to incentivize yourself to go to school early, well, then the night before, you're not going to have that Netflix binge session because the goals of the morning routine of getting to school in the morning on time is counterproductive to staying up all night and watching Netflix. So make sure that when you are choosing and incorporating these self-care goals, that you are definitely going through and you are making sure that the goals align with the results that you are going to get from that activity. The next step is to actually choose your self-care activity. And there are so many more self-care activities than people often assume. Perfect example was my morning planning and my Starbucks routine. But going for a jog, going for a walk, those are also self-care routines. Engaging in your favorite hobby. You set time aside to paint or draw or knit or game, whatever your hobby is. That is also a form of self-care. So taking time out to focus on your hobby and do what you love, what brings you joy, is also going to be a great self-care activity that you can definitely slot into your schedule when you have time. When you are studying as hard as you do during midterms, it's going to be really frantic. So sometimes taking out large swaths of time to play video games or to paint an intricate picture and so on can be hard to find. But still finding small acts like your nightly skincare routine, like grabbing coffee with a friend and just venting about how you crazy your professor is and how they keep keeping work on you. Those kind of acts are still recharging you through your emotional well-being, through your mental well-being. And those can also be a really great outlet. Going through and categorizing and thinking up different physical activities, mental self-care, and emotional self-care, leaning on friends, having those accountability partners is going to really help you to have a whole swath of different activities that you can pull from, depending on when you're able to slot them into your midterm study schedule. There's also simple things like exercise or meditation or journaling that can also be used in a pinch if that's something that you can get yourself into. Sometimes exercise can be something as simple as taking a jog around the block or running up and down a couple of flights of stairs to just get your blood pumping and get your mind off of whatever is pressing on it. Doing the 1 line a day journaling technique is a small micro journaling, low pressure way to kind of get some of those thoughts out of your mind and down on paper. And it's always really fun to look back later and see what you were thinking and what you were going through and how things were progressing in your life. And it's a nice documentation of your journey. Not only writing it down, but reading through it and reminiscing on those times and thinking about how much you've grown and how much you've accomplished since then is so helpful and almost cathartic. Step 4 is to actually schedule self-care sessions. So now that you have gone through and you have identified some self-care activities and you have looked at your schedule as a whole, it's really important for you to find and dedicate some of your time using your planner, using your calendar to self-care activities, work them into your routines if you need to. Actually setting time aside to focus on your hobby or a project that you are working on, setting time aside and making a date with a friend to go out and grab coffee or lunch. All of these things are going to help you refuel that tank. So actually put it in your schedule, make it a priority. Do not just hope that you will find the time to, at some point, have self-care. Make it a commitment, make it a priority, and put it in your schedule. I've mentioned before, I like setting alarms and reminders in using time blocking in my schedule to remind me to disengage from one activity and move on to the next. And if you are having a hard time and you keep blowing through your self-care activities because you are prioritizing work, that might be an effective way to get you to change tasks, is to set those reminders in your calendar so that you know to stop what you're doing and go and take care of yourself. Consistency is going to be key in reaping all of the good benefits from self-care. So that means making sure that you are doing these small things every week, maybe taking time out once or twice a week to do something a little bit bigger, and maybe taking, a couple of days off a month to do something massive. And by massive, I don't mean, blowing the budget and spa, but maybe, for example, right now it is fall, it is spooky season. So if you are a hardcore studier like I was, taking a day off and going to the corn maze with friends or family, or taking a day off and spending it doing something that is a little bit less productive, but taking a day off to do an activity that's going to make you feel great and really, really refuel that tank, where you don't even touch work, you don't touch school, you don't touch any of the mounting, steaming pile of to-do, and instead you just focus on refueling that flame, refueling your tank. And over time, as you get used to taking these little minute times out daily, these little bit larger times weekly, and these big chunks monthly, you're going to see that you're going to be so much more well taken care of. Your mental and emotional state are going to be taken care of. So you are focusing and reinvesting back into yourself, and that is so helpful, that is so useful, that is so incredibly nourishing to you and your soul. And being able to do that and reinvest in yourself is going to help you to be able to really tackle the projects and complete those goals faster and more productively. and you're going to get so much more out of your college and university experience because you are not burnt out and overburdened. Over time, you're going to find things that are going to wane. Some things are just not going to fit your lifestyle. You're going to find other activities, and that's also great. You don't have to commit to the very first self-care routine that you come across. Instead, try new things, experiment, constantly adapt and adjust every single week until you have the perfect self-care routine, until you've tried a whole bunch of different hobbies, self-care activities, and find which ones nurture you best, and then switch it up, because that is one of the great things. You know that your schedule is going to be set for months and years at a time going to school. You know everything else is going to be on your daily schedule. Your classes, your labs, your homework, your studying, your reading. So having those little activities that you can switch around and find enjoyment in, those might be the only break you have to really spice up your day. Okay, that was already a long-winded explanation of how to make your self-care routine. I'm hoping that you start right now. Maybe this was the first little bit of your self-care routine. This was the first little snippet watching my weekly podcast. Thank you. I appreciate being part of the routine. If you do have a friend that needs to see this, be sure to share it with them, because that one friend that can use a little bit of unwind. If you do need extra help, be sure to leave it in the comments. Let me know what kind of self-care activities you enjoy. You can also DM me or email me. All of my socials are in the description if you need any help, or if you want the complete walkthrough with workbooks and exhaustive examples. Be sure to head over to the Absolutely Studying Academy for the time management masterclass, the self-care masterclass, and all of the routine masterclasses, as there are instructional videos and workbooks for everything. But that's all for today before I sprint into left field. And until next week, I hope you have an amazing adventure.